Something like Gate SG-1 or any such situation would be hilarious if it was the DPRK. Gate immediately offered the Empire troops and technology after kicking their ass after the first battle of Pyongyang, while using technology to brainwash the Empire into thinking that everyone else is worse than them. The Empire watches Nork TV and nothing else. The Norks industrialize faraway Korea and impose peace upon them with the explicit threat that if Rory Mercury opposes them, they will nuke her and anyone around her. SG-1 wouldn't be much change besides the DPRK sending hundreds if not thousands of more troops including tanks compared to SG-1. The DPRK would throw nukes through stargates like they were candy. They would also make use of chemical weapons on a massive scale, and BQ Gold don't really care about that sort of thing until they have a Type 73 shoved in their mouth. Norks would totally try to enslave a gold queen and seize a sarcophagus to make their leaders immortal. It would be their primary objective. I says to my wife, how come you can't take the ring? It just doesn't seem fair making these hobbit kids carry it. And she says to me, in place of the Dark Lord you will set upon a queen, and I shall not be dark, but beautiful and terrible as the morning and the night. Fair as the sea and the sun and the snow upon the mountain, dreadful as the storm and the lightning, stronger than the foundations of the earth. All shall love me in despair. Nice to know she wouldn't let the ring change her. He needs a squad to kill ogres. He refers to mere culling as combat. LMAO. Stick to goblins, kid. Adults are talking. Our side of an SHTF hellhole and the other side of an untouched land of endless fantastical possibility. Be a stalker, adventurer, hero, or bandit. The new world is yours. Spend my time warning them about Earthrealm degenerates. Go to hell. Directly to hell. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. One of the wizards attached to my support company just got steamrolled by some E3 for insinuating that hockey is not the greatest sport ever invented. I've never seen that skinny Canuck move so fast before. A short story of a man and an elf who fucking hates humans. Jim found himself walking down the road outside the city of Aldan, a city of some 10,000. So far this freelance mercenary life seems an upgrade, he thought to himself as he ambled down the road. He'd been the grandson of earthen settlers who'd come through the portal before it was learned that living beings could pass only one way. He'd grown up and lived a mercenary, part of an army for hire in what would have seemed a world of folklore to his ancestors. He'd fought ogres, he'd fought other kingdoms, he'd fought dwarves, elves, even an incubus or two. In his time, he found himself mostly a loner, only occasionally stopping to have his needs nursed by camp whores, maintaining a friendly distance with his friends and relatives. Jim Hansen ambled down the road toward a small village called Pavleen, a few miles from the outskirts of Aldan, who had sought to hire a mercenary to kill off a pestilent being whose presence threatened the town water supply. As Jim walked the road, a voice growled low nearby. "Stop! Stay still and I won't kill you," came a voice from his right. On a soft knoll stood an elf with orange hair. He held his features in a scowl that seemed, in Jim's estimation, to convey a lethal hostility and an intention to kill. Jim looked up at the man without regard to the long dagger he now presented, knowing that were he quick in his actions, he'd best the elf. "Give me your gold, maybe I'll allow you to live," said the elf. As Jim stared unflinching at the elf stared back, his countenance gradually undecipherably shifting as he impressed upon his eyes Jim's likeness. Jim stood in place, his hand rested upon the hilt of a longsword he'd just assisted a swordsmith in manufacturing 2 months prior. As Jim felt his countenance harden, the elves, he noted, softened, his body language shrinking from him. "You're not the usual scared whelp I encounter," he said. Jim stared silently at the elf, scowling a hole in the fur coat that kept his body from withering in the cool early fall breeze. "You're an assassin," the elf remarked, staring at Jim neutrally, relaxing his stance. The elf was no longer poised to pounce, seemingly estimating that there may be risk involved. "You humans aren't so tough," he began, pontificating as Jim looked on without any note of impression crossing his mind, and even less crossing his face. Usually humans cower at the sight of a blood elf. After invading our realms and cutting off our ears, you usually make no challenge to chop up, crying in terror as you face an elf who can fight," he continued. "You sound like you prey on cripples and children, maybe unarmed women if you're feeling brave. Either fight me or fuck off. I'm tired of your slant-eared soliloquies," Jim challenged, drawing the blade of his sword a quarter of the way from its scabbard. "Very well, assassin. Will you fight me on equal ground?" the elf challenged. "In the road." The elf walked down from the knoll and stood amidst the road, looking to Jim as he presented his dagger. "Draw your sword, weakling. I may just have to fashion a necklace of your ears, for the irony of it." "I'm not of the Chinese, and I have no intention of taking your ears," Jim said, seating the blade back into the scabbard, giving himself better leverage to draw with speed. "Do you not wish to draw your sword first? You produce the fight, I'll produce the sword. It will be your death," the elf stated as he charged Jim. With a practiced ease, Jim swiftly drew and swung the sword as the elf charged. The blade cut through the air with a weighty whoosh noise. The result of the duel playing out in a prosaic and unknowably dull fashion. The blade slashed through the air. The elf, having reflexively averted himself, caught the blade in his shoulder, crumpling in an exsanguinating heap upon the road. "Lindis will avenge me," he said.
Come on here, it's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle like you never heard before. That's the natural that you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band, what am Honeyland.